Hello, I would like to offer some clarification about the planning fallacy and our lazy system 2 based on questions and comments that I've received about these things in the past. So the word lazy has moral overtones. And what does that mean, moral overtones? Well, if you call someone lazy, it's a way to say that they're bad or defective in some way. I have this picture of the sloth on the front page, and sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins. So, and then we often judge ourselves too if we do not perform optimally. So we call ourselves lazy if we don't go to the gym or get up as early as we want or get everything done on our agenda. So this is a word that we often use to judge other people and also judge ourselves very harshly. So when Kahneman says our system 2 is lazy, he doesn't mean that we are lazy, but this system of our brain conserves energy by doing as little as it can. So when he says our system 2 is lazy, he's not saying that you are lazy as a person. After all, system 1, which is also part of your brain, is working very quickly and efficiently. It's the opposite of lazy. So you've got this really quick, efficient thing going on in your brain, and then this other system, the system is not you, it's a part of your brain, that tends to be energy conserving. It's doing as little as it can because that is the way that evolution crafted the system. You don't have direct control over what evolution has done before you were born. And that part of our brain is inclined to preserve energy, as much energy as it can. So you're naturally going to be inclined, it's like your system 2, exercising your system 2 is like walking up a steep hill. Evolution made the hill really steep, and walking up it is just difficult. There are personal differences in our ability, our motivation to work based in biology and psychology. So first of all, people differ in their motivation. So starting or initiating tasks and in their ability to concentrate for long periods of time. Studies have shown that one neurochemical that's really important for motivation and concentration is dopamine. And people just differ in the amount of dopamine they have in their systems and how their dopamine receptors work, how much the dopamine receptors take up. Some people just have less free-floating dopamine than others. And then for these people, it will just be naturally much harder to initiate work and much easier to procrastinate. So does that make these people morally worse? Well, we judge them as morally worse, and they might judge themselves as being morally worse, but actually it's not their fault. It's just harder to get started because they don't have this extra dopamine, and dopamine is what gives you pleasure and motivation. And there's other biological differences that make it harder for some people to focus and start tasks and plan than others. So people who have ADHD have difficulty planning. So people with ADHD have different brain structures than non-ADHD people. The frontal cortex tends to be smaller and less active. And the frontal cortex is what controls planning strategy, helps you control impulses. So your impulse just to go out skiing instead of doing your homework is harder to control for someone who has an area of their brain that's less active and is smaller. Anyway, the things that people can do to work with their biology that helps them to compensate, but those are skills that people would need to learn. If they don't have those skills, it's just very hard. And then finally, people also differ in psychological history that make procrastination and laziness more understandable. So I'm going to share a clip from trauma expert Sarah Baldwin. She talks about how procrastination and difficulties in planning are a normal result, a natural result of traumatic life experiences. So even if you don't have ADHD and your dopamine levels are fine, traumatic life experiences print in your body sort of a self-protective reaction in order to keep you safe. So she does a good job of taking some of the stigma out of the words lazy and procrastination. So even if you do not have a trauma history, I think it's good to listen to this so that you would be less judgmental toward yourselves or compassion for others or for yourselves. So here is the video.
Hello everybody. So today we are going to talk about procrastination, something that so many of us struggle with, and there can be so much shame around procrastinating. We can say all kinds of unkind things to ourselves, like maybe I just don't want it bad enough, or I'm lazy, or what's wrong with me, I'm so pathetic, and fill in the blank. And so what I want to do today is just tell you and show you how science says there's nothing to be ashamed of and what we can actually do about it. So we're going to make sense of all of that today. So first of all, in terms of procrastination, I want to address it via your autonomic nervous system and explain some of that for you right now. So just a reminder, our autonomic nervous system is what I call our protective nervous system, or I sometimes say or refer to as our own private Navy SEALs. What does that mean? Well, it means that this autonomic nervous system that you have is here to protect you all the time. Of course, there's our ventral state when we're in safety, but when there isn't safety, we go to our fight-flight response. So that's anxiety, frustration, all the way to terror or rage. We experience that in, it's located mid-back into our chest space, and a lot of tensing of our body. When we're here, our body wants to move. It doesn't want to stay still. Lots and lots of energy. That's when we perceive a threat. Now, if the threat doesn't go away, then we go into our dorsal state of shutdown, immobility. Really important to understand, our freeze response is actually that deer in headlights response is not just our dorsal state. That's a lot of sympathetic energy occurring, but I'll talk about that at another time. So if we can't evade the threat, where do we go? Our dorsal state. That first starts with some fuzziness, feeling apathetic, I don't really care, kind of numb, not really here, a little hopeless, I really want to be alone, I'm feeling kind of depressed, I feel a bit dissociated, and I'm really not in my body at all. That's all the way down into our dorsal state. So what does that have to do with procrastination? I'm about to explain. So remember, when things aren't healed in the past, our protective parts think that they're still real. And our protective parts are going to look for how those things are going to happen in the here and now in our lives in 2020. So if in the past it wasn't safe to be seen, or it wasn't safe to follow through, or succeed, or do whatever thing that you're procrastinating on, well, then those protective parts are going to see you trying to do those things in the here and now and say, it's not safe to do that. We know that based on the past. What are you doing? And this could be something as small, it's not small at all, but something as small as sending the invoice to somebody who owes you some money. Well, if you weren't safe to receive, can you see how dangerous that would be for these protective parts? In the past, it wasn't safe to receive. Or being seen in a particular way. If it wasn't safe to be seen, these protective parts are going to say, it's not safe to follow through on that. What are you, insane? Are you crazy? We can't do that. So what happens? Well, first, our protective parts say, not to worry, I'm here. I'm coming in the form of fight or flight. So then you notice, as you're thinking about stepping towards the thing, or you even start to step towards it, you might notice some anxiety come up in your body. Feeling a little anxious or even a little frustrated. And here's the thing. Remember, if we can't evade the threat, whatever the threat may be, then we go down our ladder into our dorsal state. That's our last resort. It is the most ancient response, actually, for all animals, so for self-protection. So then we go there. And what you may notice as you're trying to step towards a thing that you've had on your list for a while that you want to do, and you want to take that step or write those emails to people or whatever, you go to do it. You might feel a little anxiety. You might feel anxiety that you haven't done it. And then you sit down to do it. And then you might notice all of a sudden it's really hard to think. You can't even put the words together to write the email, to send the invoice. And I'm just using this example, but it could be anything. And I just feel so foggy or out of it, or I suddenly feel exhausted, like I have no energy. And I just can't put the words together, and and I'm just not really here. I don't know what's going on. And what's occurring there is your dorsal state is getting activated because it's saying, whoa, you're getting closer to the threat. You're actually sitting at the computer and writing the email. That is so dangerous. That means you're one button away from send and asking for something. Don't you know it's not safe to ask for something? So then our dorsal state comes online. And then we say to ourselves, what the heck is wrong with me? I'm gonna go take a nap. And then your autonomic nervous system says, amazing, threat evaded, phew, we didn't do the scary thing. And then what ends up happening is you come up your ladder, you come into ventral because your system is saying, good, he or she stopped doing that thing, so now we're safe to be in our ventral state of safety. And then you say to yourself, man, I didn't follow through on that thing. I've been saying I'm going to do it for a month. I can't believe I didn't do it. I sat down to do it earlier today. What the heck was I doing? And then you go to sit down again, and your autonomic nervous system comes online and says, danger, danger, danger. Not to worry, I'll make you foggy and fuzzy or hazy or not remember things. Remember, when we're down our ladder, our prefrontal cortex stops working, so it goes offline. It's a big front part of our brain, our rational brain, thinking brain, language is there. And again, it says, great, threat evaded. And so this protective part of you thinks it's doing you a favor. And then you're so frustrated thinking that the protective part is your highest self, meaning that you're choosing to do this or that you're procrastinating because you're lazy or because you don't want it bad enough, when in fact, your beautiful self-protective systems are working really hard, nothing lazy about it. So the other reason that we procrastinate is because for many of us, we didn't have a childhood experience where we were taught proper parenting. And so what ends up happening is for some of us, there might have been no parenting. So we just had to figure it out on our own. And that might have been waiting to the last minute and then trying to get it all done, or not really learning how to follow through because there was no structure for it. Or when we did follow through, we were punished or shamed because we didn't do it right. Or there was a disciplinary, figure at home who was very hard on us, and we always felt like we had to be doing. So because of all those things, there's a young parts inside of us that really needs support in how to begin slowly implementing and how to show up for ourselves, and then rewards when we do show up for ourselves, along with regulating our nervous system. These are two incredibly important components in order to stop the procrastination that you're experiencing, in order to step into the life that you're really wanting. So reparenting, we want to work on that. How can we begin coming to the aid of these younger parts? You can use the as if tool, meaning as if I was with a young child. How would I want to support them? How could I support them? And then with your autonomic nervous system, it's really important to regulate. So I'll ask people, what are their best hours of the day? Meaning, what are the best hours of the day for you to follow through that you feel most ventral? For some people, it's morning, night, some people afternoon, some people right after the exercise, but really figuring that out. And then using that ventral opening as an opportunity to support yourself, being a parent to yourself, to take that step forward. Noticing when you become dysregulated and using regulating tools to begin bringing yourself up your ladder so that you can show, not simply tell, these parts of yourself that you are safe, to stop living in really the cocoon and safety of procrastination that's keeping you stuck for a reason, and instead step into the life that you're really wanting. So these two parts are vital. Really healthy reparenting and addressing your autonomic nervous system. They are key, and they are a big part of why we procrastinate and the root of that. So I hope that makes sense. You can watch other videos on those two separate things and how to begin incorporating them. But you make sense, all of you. It isn't that you don't want it bad enough. It isn't that you're lazy. It isn't that it isn't right for you, the thing that you're wanting, or that there is something inherently wrong with you. It's simply because these parts of you are just doing their best and they're trying to keep you safe. So I hope that helps. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.
And she was